We can imagine a perfect world where there are no political barriers and all fights can get done. But in reality, it looks like it'll be the Leo Santa Cruz fight. I'm not sure he's going to be able to deal with Rey Vargas's reach and size advantages. But just for the sake of hypotheticals, I would like to see him fight against Emmanuel Navarrete because they're both Mexican and they both have really awkward styles that people have trouble dealing with. With Rey Vargas, he moves around a lot. You got these counter punches from the outside. He knows how to tie up and make it a really ugly fight for someone. Navarrete, he's all aggression, and the punches come from so many different angles. And then also Rey Vargas, one of the advantages he has is his height advantage. He's taller than everyone. But with Emmanuel Navarrete, who's about 5'7.5" or 5'7", shorter than Rey Vargas, he's going to have a reach advantage going into a potential fight with Rey Vargas. So you got a size advantage versus a reach advantage. You got a guy who's very awkward in terms of his boxing skills and his defense and moving around while landing punches, whereas Emmanuel Navarrete, he's awkward as he comes forward. So really interesting matchup of styles if that fight could ever take place. It doesn't look like it. But, for the sake of hypotheticals, I think it's interesting to think about.
Welcome back to the RBR Recap episode 24. I'm Alex Burgos, joined as always by my man, Gabe Rivas, who is in sunny Florida, if I'm not mistaken. How are you, Gabe?
I'm doing well. Once again, joining the show from a hotel, but we're here, we're ready to go. It's Sunday morning.
Nice. We got to chop it up and talk about the WBC Featherweight title fight last night on Showtime, presented by Premier Boxing Champions. It was Mexico's Rey Vargas challenging to become a two-weight division champion against Mark Magsayo, who had recently beat Gary Russell Jr., who was the long-standing WBC Featherweight champion. It was a good back and forth. Tough, close fight, which Vargas ended up getting the nod by split decision. Scores were 115-112 twice for Vargas and 114-113 for Magsayo. Gabe, what were your thoughts on this fight, on Vargas becoming and successfully becoming a two-division champion? He now holds a WBC title. A lot of appetizing opportunities and fights and matchups that we can kind of play around with and discuss. None more so, at least from Vargas's perspective, than Leo Santa Cruz. He mentioned him a bunch of times in the post-fight presser, in the ring with Jim Gray, and then in the press conference after as well. So it seems like that's maybe the way that he wants to go, all Mexico battle, which would be a fun fight. Sign me up for that one. But what were your thoughts on the fight first? And then we can kind of discuss what's next.
Going into the fight, there were a lot of intriguing elements between Rey Vargas and Mark Magsayo because there is a rivalry between their trainers. You got Nacho Beristain on Vargas's corner and, of course, Freddie Roach on Magsayo's corner. And we saw that same dynamic in the rivalry between Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez, again, Filipino versus Mexican rivalry as well. I was also interested in seeing how Rey Vargas would do as he moved up in the division. Sometimes when fighters move up, their power and their reach is not as effective. But because Rey Vargas is so tall, he's able to maintain his effectiveness as he moves up in the division. I think of examples like Oscar De La Hoya or Terrence Crawford, who, aside from, who as they moved up in weight, was able to continue using reach advantages and also seemed like they got stronger. So I was also looking to see if Rey Vargas would look stronger at 126 pounds now that he doesn't have to lose as much weight. And also I kind of wanted to see Mark Magsayo, what he was made of, and what kind of fighter he is at 126 pounds. He had a great victory against Gary Russell Jr., but unfortunately there might be an asterisk because he said that he was injured from it. And so because of that, you have to, see him against another opponent to see where he is at 126 pounds. But with this fight with Rey Vargas and Mark Magsayo, we saw Rey Vargas that is very similar to the one at 122 pounds, moving around a lot, clinching, throwing counter punches from the outside. I didn't see him look stronger, but I did see him being just as effective as he was at 122 pounds, countering Mark Magsayo from the outside, sometimes being a little reckless as he counters. And by that, I mean the uppercut from the outside, especially to the body. I think that's what caused the quote-unquote knockdown against Rey Vargas. I'm not sure if that was a knockdown or if it should have been counted as a knockdown, but it was as a result of throwing an uppercut from the outside and catching a straight punch. Again, the quickest way to get between two distances is a straight line, not by going around. So if someone throws an uppercut, you can catch him with a straight right hand or even a jab, and that's what happened with Vargas. But I thought it was, nonetheless, a clear victory for Vargas, and it opens up the doors to new opportunities at 126 pounds.
Yeah, to go back real quick to what you were saying, some of the things that he was mistakes that he was making, that lead uppercut is just a weird punch and from so far out. Yeah, Magsayo, I thought it was a definite knockdown. He caught him with the straight right coming in. That was basically all he had, all night. He was on the straight line coming in, trying to land that straight right. I was a little disappointed with Magsayo's, versatility and all this talk about, we've been working on different things, doing different things. Now, going back to what he said all, fight weekend before that, I hope Rey Vargas stands there and trades and doesn't run and this and that. Vargas didn't run. In the mid to later rounds, he got a little bit more intelligent and was like, okay, well, I don't have to stay in the pocket and fight, but I can stand, get my combinations off and circle, laterally and move around. That's smart. But he didn't really use the ring like the 122-pound version of, Vargas and really move around so much. I thought he gave Magsayo a lot of opportunities, but Magsayo couldn't really close the distance effectively. He didn't jab. He didn't use what Manny Pacquiao said would be, the key factors, which was really good head movement and footwork. I thought he lacked in those two departments, and I thought we would have seen a little bit more development, especially being like he's kind of cut in that cloth and that mold of Manny Pacquiao. So obviously, who better to work with than Freddie Roach? You can kind of, but I guess there's limitations to that. Who's Manny Pacquiao? Only Manny Pacquiao. So but I'm thinking kind of that herky jerky jump in and out. A lot of head movement. He showed like just a small glimpse of that and just not enough at all. Didn't throw enough punches. I think Vargas, according to CompuBox, threw almost 200 more punches. He was the busier guy. He was the more effective guy. And he's been down 3 times before, last night being the 4th. So it's not like, oh, wow, he can't take the power. I thought he took some clean shots early on. I thought he handled it well. So maybe as he gets more acclimated to that division, he'll be okay as well. But yeah, I think a guy with more tricks and more tools in the bag would be able to figure out how to maybe approach that distance a little bit better and make him pay for some of the things that he's doing. He was, throwing those kind of like falling back shots and that lead uppercut, which was weird. And finally he paid for it in round 9. Lucky for him, Magsayo didn't really take advantage. And I think Abner Mares was the one kind of beating that drum more than any of the Showtime guys, but they were all kind of miffed. Like round 10, he was on, Vargas was on wobbly legs, and Magsayo didn't really try to push the action or really take advantage like you would think. And you even go back to the Gary Russell Jr. fight. You got a one-armed guy, actually wasn't doing anything besides relying really on his power shot to really win that fight. So I think he definitely needs to strengthen some things, and he's got the power, obviously. And he was almost able to kind of erase all the early mistakes that he made again with that one hitter quitter and just get to that point where he could win a fight based off his power. But he's definitely got to add some things to his repertoire, and who knows? That's a busy division, so there are other options for him as well. If an immediate rematch doesn't happen, which it seems it won't, because moving to what's next. Rey Vargas was asked a few times, and he said there's been preliminary discussions and whatnot. And so Leo Santa Cruz seems like the guy. And like I said, sign me up for that one. He's a whirlwind. He's a fun fighter. And I think those two styles will mesh pretty well. But there's also other guys as well. So Gabe, talk to us about what you think of the Leo Santa Cruz fight and, potentially against some of these other guys. Now that Josh Warrington, Lara and Magsayo again.
We can imagine a perfect world where there are no political barriers and all fights can get done. But in reality, it looks like it'll be the Leo Santa Cruz fight. I'm not sure he's going to be able to deal with Rey Vargas's reach and size advantages. But, just for the sake of hypotheticals, I would like to see him fight against Emmanuel Navarrete because they're both Mexican and they both have really awkward styles that people have trouble dealing with. With Rey Vargas, he moves around a lot. He got these counter punches from the outside. He knows how to tie up and make it a really ugly fight for someone. Navarrete, he's all aggression, and the punches come from so many different angles. And then also Rey Vargas, one of the advantages he has is his height advantage. He's taller than everyone. But with Emmanuel Navarrete, who's about 5'7.5" or 5'7", shorter than Rey Vargas, he's going to have a reach advantage going into a potential fight with Rey Vargas. So you got a size advantage versus a reach advantage. You got a guy who's very awkward in terms of his boxing skills and his defense and moving around while landing punches, whereas Emmanuel Navarrete, he's awkward as he comes forward. So really interesting matchup of styles if that fight could ever take place. It doesn't look like it. But, for the sake of hypotheticals, I think it's interesting to think about. And also there's a guy named Lee Wood who has a lot of power who will give anybody trouble at 126 pounds. Cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. Lee Wood's another guy that we didn't mention, but powerful as well. Fun to watch.
He has a regular WBA title, whereas Leo Santa Cruz has a super WBA title.
Yeah, definitely. And Santa Cruz, acquitted himself well in his comeback fight against Keenan Carbajal recently. And so, I think even that version would just be fun to watch. Obviously he may have lost a step or two, but I think it's still a fun fight to get against Rey Vargas. I'm with you. If we could, throw all political barriers aside and, just not have to deal with thinking of different promoters and this and that, just from a fan's perspective, Emmanuel Navarrete is the fight that we want to see.
Thank you for listening to the RBR Recap. Make sure to follow us on social media at RBR Recap and visit RBRrecap.com for the latest episodes.